The expectations for South Carolina in 2019 are pretty high, and there's a reason to think that. And today I'm going to be going over my first schedule preview for South Carolina. I'm just going to be going over a few points, who this team is going to be losing, and the schedule preview, of course. I'm going to be going over South Carolina's schedule and who I think are going to be possible wins and games that could possibly be losses. In 2018, they went 7-6, kind of a disappointing year for South Carolina. However, they've got a huge big factor in here, and that is that Jake Bentley is returning at quarterback. That is huge for this team. I'm expecting a lot of big things from him. Should be one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC for sure. They return lots of impactful players. I believe they return all their running backs, and then they only lose one receiver and two tight ends and two offensive linemen. So really, on the offensive line, that is going to be tough to lose two of them. But really, though, receiver and running back wise, they are looking really good. And then, of course, the two tight ends, that is also going to be a big factor. But Jake Bentley, we've known him. He doesn't really use his tight ends a whole lot. He mostly uses his receivers. And so that is really, even though it could be a big factor, it won't affect them as much as losing receivers. They lose three quarterbacks and one safety and one linebacker on the defensive side, so they're going to be a little weak in the secondary. That is likely going to be their weak spot. And then one linebacker, they return their entire defensive line. That is huge. Could they make an SEC championship run, though, for South Carolina? That is a big story about this team. Lots of expectations for Will Muschamp. This is going to be a big year for him. And I think that they could make a championship run next year. I'm expecting big things from this team. But of course their schedule though is not easy. I think they've got for sure one of the tougher schedules of the Power 5 conference teams. Here's what I'm expecting from them. They got North Carolina and Charleston Southern to start off the season. But really doesn't get much easier than that for the rest of the year. For 5 straight weeks. Except for one bye week in there. They've got Alabama, Missouri, Kentucky, Georgia, and Florida all in consecutive games. It's really tough to predict these games. I think Alabama, that's going to be a tough game, of course, at home. But I think they've got a chance of winning that. I'm not saying that's going to be a loss yet. And they have at Missouri. That's going to be a tougher game. Missouri, I'm expecting bigger things from this season. I think Missouri and South Carolina, two teams in the SEC that are really going to rise next season. Kentucky at home, that should be a game. I consider putting that green, but I'm not very comfortable to put that green yet. Then they have at Georgia on October 12th, and at Florida the next week on October 19th. So I think Georgia's the one game in there where I think that they really probably will lose that. Georgia has them at home, so that's going to be a tough game for them to be able to win. Against Florida at home, that's going to be a game where I think that they have a chance to win it. But I think coming off of 4 consecutive tough games is going to be tough for Florida to win that game. Next week they have the Volunteers on the road. I think they're going to win that game, but I'm not going to be so sure on that, of course, since it's a road game. And Vanderbilt and App State, those 2 games they should win to start off November. And then they got 2 tough games to end the SEC schedule with at Texas A&M, and then they've got Clemson. So that's not really an SEC team, but that is going to be a tough game for them at home. I don't think they're going to beat Clemson, even if they're at home. They've got such a tough schedule. This is one of the toughest schedules I think I've ever seen in the past couple of years. You got Clemson, and it's not even. Clemson. That's a tough enough game. You also have Alabama and Georgia. Those 2 games blend in because you've got Clemson also on that schedule. So it's not going to be easy for this team. It's not going to be easy at all. I think 6 to 10 wins is likely for this team. I don't think they're going to make it to the SEC championship just because of the fact that their schedule is going to be too tough. If they win all these games, and if they go in with a 10-2 or 11-1 record, this is a team that very well could go to a big bowl game. I think just because, if you go with 10 wins, that means you have to beat either Alabama, Georgia, or Clemson, or it could be even 2 of them. So that is just something to note there. But yeah, very tough schedule for South Carolina next season. I think that this is going to be a team to watch for. They've got a ton of potential, and I think Are they ready for the challenge of the East? I think since they're more an experienced team, I think they can handle it. So, watch out for South Carolina next year. They're going to be a team that definitely can pull an upset, and you'll definitely have to not sleep on them for sure if you're a team that's going to be facing South Carolina. So, let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments below. Don't let your thoughts go unknown. I like to hear your guys' thoughts, and I'll respond to most of them that I can. Show some support in a way if you'd like to. We're going over the SEC right now for the schedule previews, and we're just coming towards the end of it. We've got a few more in the SEC East and a couple in the SEC West. So, thank you guys all for watching. Show some support once again, but only if you like to, and I will see you all later.